Hello, everybody. This is Matthew from Day and Night Podcast. It's our first episode, so we want to humbly thank you for joining us. And I want to first say, if you like this podcast, click the like button. If you don't like it, unlike, of course, and subscribe if you like this podcast. Hello, everybody. This is Matthew from Day and Night Podcast. So that's my brother, Marcus, down in San Antonio, Texas.
How's it going, everybody?
All right, so I'm just going to start off with a quick overview as far as like who I am and why this podcast was started. So we was both born in Philly. At 18, we moved to San Antonio, Texas with our older brother. Rest in peace. And when I got there, we worked for about a year or so. I went to school. I got my associate's degree in applied technology at NEC. I did a little bit of work in that field for about a year or so. I didn't like it. So I enlisted in the military. And from that point, it was 1996. Fort Stewart, Georgia was my first duty station. I did 21 years in the military, 3 combat tours, 8 deployments total. I retired 2016. I moved to Virginia. I did personal training at Equinox Fitness Center in DC. After that, I worked at immigration. From there, I went to massage therapy school in Baltimore, moved to Atlanta, did a little bit of massage with Hand and Stones, and I opened my own practice. And now I'm where I'm at right now. So I have my MBA. I'm currently in school for my MBA for psychology, and I have a bachelor's in sports and health science. All right, Marcus.
Okay, well, guys, just the same thing like my brother was saying, man. We both moved down here. Well, I moved down here in San Antonio. We both did at the same time. Like he was just stating, he went in the military. I stayed behind with my older brother, Jay. Again, rest in peace, Jay. And currently it's 30 years now. 31 years of being September that I've been here in San Antonio. I reside here. I have 3 beautiful children here, two daughters, 1 son. I went a little different route as opposed to my twin brother, Matt. I just went to school for a little bit, did community college for a year, and my first daughter and my second. So I kind of went that route on just working jobs to take care of my kids. And I went from being a manager. I was a manager for a few years. I got out of that and I got into personal training, which I'm currently now doing my business, Total Accountability, Total Fitness. I'm an entrepreneur doing that, and I'm really pursuing and trying to push that. And it's been going on a year now since I separated from brother. He didn't mention that, but we did have our own personal training company together, TFRT.
Yeah.
But then he separated and left, and now I'm doing my own by myself on Accountability, Total Fitness. And that's kind of a quick review of me being here the last 31 years here in San Antonio.
All right, so yeah, I don't know how I forgot that part, but yeah, we actually had our own personal training business.
Yeah, that's all right.
He was in Texas, I was in Virginia, so we tried to make it work. But so just a quick overview about this whole podcast, Day and Night. So like you can see, we're both twins, and a lot of people think twins are exactly alike. They had the same mindset. They do everything exactly the same. There are some things that we do the same. We do have some things that we think alike, but for the most part, our belief system is a little bit different, from each other. And I remember when we first moved to Texas, one of my older brother friends, he was just watching us and we were just interacting. He was like, man, they're like night and day. And that stuck with me all the way up until, currently where I'm at right now. So I wanted to start this podcast because everybody, regardless where you at, United States, overseas, in the entire world, everybody got different perspectives. And it's just like night and day. Both is needed. Day is important, night is important. They're vastly different, but they work together to allow us to function here on this earth. So basically what I'm saying is we all can have our own opinions and different perspectives, but as long as we respect each other and treat each other with respect and love, we can still coexist. So this whole platform is for people to if you want to speak out, and if you have a different opinion, by all means, you're not going to be judged on it. You're not going to be belittled for it. It's going to be accepted and received. So that's the premise as far as this whole day and night podcast. All right, so we're about to get into it. So this is our first episode. This first episode is a very controversial topic. So I want to take my time, just bear with me, because I don't want to offend anybody. And I want to make sure what I'm saying is 100% overstood, and that everybody out there knows this is my opinion. This is based off my belief system. So the topic we're going to talk about is, I think it was June 24th, is when the Supreme Court reversed the Roe versus Wade. So I've talked to a lot of women, and there's a lot of women that's upset about this, and it's completely overstood why they're upset. I have 4 beautiful young ladies, and so I get it. Women deserve to be respected. Their rights should be respected. So when we get into this is just our opinion. This is my opinion. Whether if you think I'm wrong, it's just an opinion. It's based off of what I believe. And just like I said, we should respect each other's opinions. So this is not an attack on women. This is just how I see it, based off of what I believe in. So I'm just going to get into it. So I don't know if anyone out there knows the whole story about Roe versus Wade and how it actually came about. So I did a little bit of research on it, because I'll be honest, when I first heard about it, I just knew it was for abortion, but I didn't know the backstory behind it. I don't know if everybody know who she was. Her actual name was Norma McCordy. And so her story is, her mother was an alcoholic, and she came from a troubled background. So at age 16, she had her first child, and she was actually married at age 16. So throughout her whole childhood, she was in and out of reform schools. She was in trouble with the law, just a very troubled individual. And some of it stems from her mom being single and her mom being alcoholic, not having a father figure in the home. So after she had her first child, she got married at 16, and before she had her first child, she got divorced. And then from that point, she actually gave her first child to her mother. So that was about 1967. In 1969, she got pregnant again. So at this point, she didn't want to deal with the child again. So she gave this child up for adoption. So then 2 years later, in 1969, is when she got pregnant again. But this time, this is when she decided, you know what, I'm just going to go get an abortion. And in the state of Texas at that time, it was only legal to get an abortion if the mother was deemed to have a life-threatening pregnancy after the first trimester. So because she was already beyond that point and she didn't have any life expectancy, disaster or whatever, that's when she tried to get an abortion, and the state of Texas said no. And that's when she went to the attorneys. Now, this is the key point here. These attorneys were both members of the feminists. They was feminist attorneys. So these feminist attorneys was actually wanting to fight this law. So they was just sitting back in the weeds, just hoping and looking like, man, when's somebody going to show up? And she was a prime candidate. So based off of what I believe everything has a foundation. So with McCormick, with her decision to get an abortion, her intention was negative. That's negative energy. She carried that negative energy almost her entire young adult life. So that whole premise of the Roe versus Wade was based off of negative energy. I believe negative energy is carried throughout a lifetime. And if it's not caught at the right time, if it's not reversed, it's just going to continue on. So because that negative energy and that intent was not a good intent, She wanted to get rid of the child for whatever reason. It didn't state why she did it, but she just didn't want to have a child. So I believe that negative energy was the foundation of that whole Roe versus Wade. And if you want to get as deep as far as like this country was built on racism, it wasn't built on truth. It was built on lies and hate. So I believe that's why we still continue to this day to deal with what we deal with. But that's a different topic for another day. So basically what I'm saying, like that whole time, as far as from 1973 up until now, that whole premise of Roe versus Wade was based on negative energy and negative intent. Now, when I say this, I know women should be respected. I know it's their right, it's their body. They can have the right to choose if they don't want to do something with their body. I'm 100% with that. But what my whole point is, being that she had a troubled childhood, she was not in her right mindset. Her whole lifespan of development was not the correct way. So she wasn't making correct decisions. So she had 2 children that she already gave away. So she had a third. That's my whole issue with this whole Roe versus Wade. Okay. So I believe that's why it got reversed, is because it started off on negative intention. Now, if she was actually raped, and that's the worst thing imaginable for a woman. And if she was raped and was impregnated, not saying that's positive by any means, I'm not saying that's a positive thing. But what I'm saying is the reason why she's getting an abortion, it's really serious. So I don't think anybody will want to have a child if they actually, was raped. So that's my mindset as far as it being positive, if that makes sense. So because, like I said, her intent was, I don't want to have a child, even though she was being irresponsible. She was married, young at 16. She gave 2 children up already for adoption. So she just wasn't a responsible young adult at the time. So, and this is the other issue that I have with the whole Roe versus Wade. I believe that we all should be self-responsible for our bodies, our actions, and everything that we do. I had several talks with women, and their number one issue was, we should not be told what to do with our bodies. Again, I agree with that. But at the same time, I'm looking at it from the standpoint of, okay, women we all do have control of our bodies. Let's say, for example, you're 16, you're 17, and your parents telling you, look, don't have sex at a young age, focus on school, boys is going to be there. Don't put yourself in a situation where you can get pregnant, get a STD, or whatever the case is. Do the right thing and be smart. If they was actually given this mentorship and guidance, and they still choose to do that, that's irresponsibility on their part, because they was given guidance and mentorship. So when I hear some women say, well, one of the arguments is it's going to be a lot of children that's unwanted. And that blows my mind, because I'm like, if it's unwanted, why are you putting yourself in that position to possibly have a child? So my whole thing is, be responsible. I mean, it's the same thing for a man. It's not just on the women, it's the men as well. It takes 2. They both have to be responsible. But if you have 2 people that's irresponsible, then that's what's going to happen. And I felt as though the abortion was like an scapegoat, and it allowed some people to be irresponsible because there was an out. Worst case scenario, like, man, I don't really want this child. Okay, well, we can have an abortion, even though it's the worst thing possible. I experienced it personally. I know some people that actually had an abortion. I know the thought process that goes into it is painful. I know the after effect of it is painful. I've witnessed that. And I don't wish that on anybody, because that person have to deal with that decision for the rest of their life, knowing that they actually didn't allow a human being to come on this earth. So I totally understand that. But at the same time, we have to, even as parents, we have to make sure we're raising our children right, especially our young girls, to make sure that they're responsible, because it starts with self first. And that's my whole issue with this. Now, women that's raped, by all means, they should have that autonomy to say, you know what, I don't want this child. That's where I disagree, where the Supreme Court made a mistake when they said that everybody or anybody can't have an abortion. That's when they're doing injustice. But for me, it's self-responsibility. If you do not want to have a child, you know that that's a possibility, either protection or something. You know, that hard talk needs to be had. Like I said, it's both, not just the woman, the man too. When you come into a relationship, and this conversation we had. So what are we going to do? What is your outlook? Are we trying to get married? Is that the end goal? If not, then, you know, I don't want to have a child. Do you want to have a child? No. Okay, well, we're going to have to abstain from sex. And I'm just being real. There's other things out there. You don't have to have penetration to have sex. If you can't deal with not having it, there's oral, there's self, you know, whatever the case is, there's other things you can do. So to me, that's totally irresponsibility to say that child is unwanted. Don't put yourself in that position. So I just want everybody to think about that. You know, just think about what I'm saying, if it makes sense to you. Leave a comment, you know, and just let me know. If it don't make sense, you know, I'll go back and look at it and think about it and revisit it. But just think about what I said. Don't get upset. But yeah, it makes sense to me. So I'm going to go ahead and, you know, kick it over to Mark.
Right.
And what's your piece on that?
Well, like you said, first and foremost, it's a very, very touchy subject. I have two daughters, and just like Matt was saying, it's a hard subject to talk about as a man, because we will never, ever completely understand what a woman goes through. I have most of respect for women in carrying a child and what they have to endure and what they have to go through in the 9 months, even after they have the kid. So I agree with the ladies on this about the Roe versus Wade, about reversing the law. I agree they should have the choice to decide on what they have to do with their body, because at the end of the day, they the ones that have to deal with all that. So it's not fair that a law is implemented to say, well, regardless of your situation, you can't just go get an abortion because you don't want it, because of whatever reason you choose to. I feel like that's lose the freedom of America and the choices that we're supposed to be able to have the freedom to make decisions. But I will say this. Now, I'm not siding all the way with Matt, but I am agreeing on the aspect as far as free will, free choice. We all have a choice to make. If we make right decisions, we can prevent that. But I was talking to a friend of mine yesterday, and we got into a deep conversation. So that's what I'm saying. This is a touchy subject for a man and a woman talking about it, because we're always going to be not correct, because we can never understand what a woman deal with and what they go through. So her and I, what we was talking about, and I told her that, in my opinion, I believe that they should stipulate the law a little bit, like tweak it, like Matt was saying. Now, if the woman is raped, which is the worst thing can ever happen to a woman, there's no, hands down, there should be no discussion. If she was raped, she has that right to decide, because I don't think it would be hard for a woman to bring in a kid in that way when it wasn't warranted, it wasn't wanted, it was forced by, you know, some man that took advantage. So that should be one reason where women should have that choice to be able to do whether they want to have a kid or not. The other one is, it's a lot of women out here and men. I got to put the men on accountability too. It takes two. The woman can't have a kid without the guy, so he got to be just as responsible. And Matt said it, and I agree with that point. There needs to be mature conversation between the two, saying, "Look, I don't want no kid. I ain't ready for a kid." But the problem with that is there's some men out there that feel like they can get a woman and control a woman by getting a kid because they want this kid and you're gonna be my woman. So that could be another reason why I can agree with a woman saying, no, I don't want this kid. He kind of lied, even though at the end of the day, you still got to be conscious of what's going on. He could have said, yeah, I use a condom and put a hole in it just to get her pregnant purposely. And then she gets pregnant thinking that he was being mature and safe when his intent was totally different. So that's another scenario we got to look at. So my opinion, what I'm trying to say is it's a case by case. I think every situation that a woman goes through, it may sound crazy, it's a lot of extra work, but every woman that has that choice, like if they feel like they ain't ready to have a kid, they have to go through a screening. What is the reason why? Why do you want to not have this kid? What caused this? And then they have to have a legitimate reason. It can't just be, I don't want a kid, I'm not ready, I feel like it's a mistake. Well, that was a choice you chose if you chose that to go ahead and get pregnated by that guy. So the point is, it should be a screening with your doctor. And the doctor it's kind of like a judgment. And again, if it's a male, it's going to look like, well, you a man, you wouldn't understand. So it's going to be a little black and white with that as far as the screening when the woman goes to see the doctor that she want to have an abortion with. He kind of has to play judge and jury or feeling like, well, from what you're telling me, I don't think that's a legitimate reason. By law, we can't deem you to get an abortion because you personally want to do it just because you're not ready. And it was a mistake, so you feel like you don't want to. So my point is, they should make a little bit of stipulations within the law. Again, case by case, instead of just flat out, straight out, you can't have abortion because you want one. Because they already saying, I was watching news the other day, how certain states the law is a little different. So they saying, this is what a professional doctor got on there and said, that they just go to the next state where the law isn't as strict and they just gonna go and try to get an abortion. So they really need to sit back and reevaluate this, because this is going to be talked about. It's going to be fought back. There's going to be a lot of pushback on this because the women ranks feels like it's not being appreciated, not being respected, it's being forced, and that's something that's going to not go away. So I think they need to be really considerate and sit back and say, okay, let's reevaluate. Let's make it a little bit to where it's a little bit choice, but make sure the reason why you have an abortion is, one, you must have really been, again, sad to say, you must have been raped or you was forced. But if you did something irresponsibly, I don't feel like you should have the right to take a life and get rid of it because you feel like it was a mistake or he forced you or he lied to you, whatever case. So that's just my take on that. Then another one I was going to say, and this is going to be kind of touchy, so I'm not going to say no names, but I would tell women, because I have some women that kind of agree with what I'm saying and some that's against it. Like I was telling my friend last night. What about the women that can't have kids? There's a lot of women out there that don't agree with the women that just want to have an abortion because they feel like they ain't ready. Talk to a woman that had 2, 3 miscarriages and they can't have a kid. And then they look at these other women or whoever that decides to get rid of it just because they don't want one. And think about how that feels, that you could just be so easily to say, I don't want one, get rid of life, where you have another woman right here that wants a kid. And unfortunately, for whatever reason, she has numerous miscarriages. She can never have one. So that's where you got to look at that. I would say for women to think about that with the law is it could go real deep if you really go deep into this. It's a discussion that can go on and on. I think we should really touch this and have a lady on here to get an opinion, because I don't want to come across like we just two men being biased towards it and we really don't understand. But like Matt was saying, he talked to numerous lady friends. I talked to numerous lady friends. My daughter and I, we had a conversation about it. We agreed on some and we didn't agree. So it's just one of those discussions where it's going to be hard for everybody to see eye to eye. Like Matt was saying, this is an opinion at the end of the day. We all have a perspective and an out view of what we see is right or wrong. That doesn't mean that the other person is saying is better than yours. It's just that's everybody's opinion on how they feel about it. Because I have personal experience where in the past I had a girl or a young lady told me that she couldn't get pregnant, and then she wound up dead because she told me she couldn't. So it's just a lot of stuff that could go into play, guys. So all I'm basically saying is the law was insensitive how they forced it out there. I think they should have thought more about it and put stipulations on it. I think it would never be accepted by women, but I think some women will sit back and look and will kind of agree, well, yeah, if they make it to where certain steps you got to go through to get the abortion, I think it would be a little bit more accepted. Again, this is a guy's opinion, so I would really like to hear a woman's take on that. So like Matt said, hit, subscribe, give us feedback, give us your opinion, what you think, because I would love to hear what everybody thinks on this. Because again, this is a really touchy subject, and I want both men and women to respond with this, so we get a good even base on how everybody feels. If it's all women, it's gonna be lopsided. So guys, I want y'all just as much as the women to see where we fall on that. But I mean, that's my outtake on it. Any closing words, Matt? Or
Oh no, we're still going. So
okay, so
it's
you want to
something.
go back, rebuttal.
Yeah. So it's something you said. Now this is what I want to kind of focus on, and I think this is what a lot of people talk about.
Right.
Like when I first opened up and I was talking about the whole backstory as far as with what's her name, Norma. So my question is, and again, comment and respond.
Right.
My question is for the women. The only reason why this case, I mean, we could hypothetically say it could have been someone else that came about and it could have still got to this point. But the only reason why Roe versus Wade happened is because of this one female. Because at that time, abortion was somewhat legal. It was legal in the sense of you can only have an abortion up until the first trimester. Anything past the first trimester, you can't have an abortion. So that wasn't really an issue because most women find out within 6 weeks or before. More so now because technology is better. But if it wasn't for this case, if it wasn't for her, then there would never be a Roe versus Wade. I know it's, looking back, we can say, well, it never would happen. But that's my whole point when I was talking earlier, as far as it's important. Like, this is the psychology of it. When you have somebody growing up and they're not growing up the right way, they're going to do things, they're going to be more irresponsible opposed to somebody that may have structure and guidance and mentorship. Not saying that's guaranteed, but more so than likely, you may have somebody that go down the right path. But because this young lady was troubled and she was just out there, in my opinion, having sex irresponsibly, it's clear that she didn't want children because she kept giving them away. But because she didn't have any guidance in her life, she was trying to find an easy way out. So my whole thing is, to me, it's like cause and effect. Everybody focused on the effect aspect, but not the cause. So to me, the cause is improper guidance, no mentorship, and not holding people accountable. I think if people are held accountable, then you're less likely to have these circumstances happen, as far as someone getting pregnant and saying, well, you know what, I don't want the child. And not to pick on you, but
what
you said something earlier. You was like, well, you was with this female and she told you that she couldn't have children, but I guess apparently she was pregnant because you didn't follow through with the story. You just said like, So in my mind, I'm thinking like, and it's not putting you on blast or nothing, but it's just being real. In my mind, it's like there's still irresponsibility because
on my part,
so y'all didn't use protection, So that's my whole point. It's like, if abortion wasn't there as an option, this is a question. If it wasn't there as an option, would people be more responsible? But once this case happened, that opened it up for people or women to say, you know what? I don't really want this kid. I just go get an abortion. And like I said, I'm going to say this again. I know it's not an easy decision. I'm not just saying like it's just somebody just sitting back like, I'm just not going to do it. I'm just going to have an abortion. I know it's not that easy. I know that thought goes into it and all that. But what I'm just saying is, when there's an option there, it's a little bit easier to be relaxed, so to speak, than if there's no other option. Like if there's only two things that's going to happen. Either you're going to have a child, get pregnant, or you're going to get an STD. So those two things are the only two things that's really glaring to say, well, man, if I mess around and have unprotected sex, either I'm going to have a kid or I'm going to get a disease.
Right.
So I would think a responsible person would be like, I don't want a child. So let me ease. No, I'm not going to do that. Let me use protection. I'm not just going to have sex. So why isn't abstinence being preached opposed to having sex? Someone actually said this to me. It's my body. I should choose to have sex if I want to.
Right. Yeah, I heard that too. So
now I get that, but at the same time, so that means you can have sex irresponsibly. And that's my whole thing with this, is that all I hear is people speaking irresponsibly and wanting to be irresponsible opposed to being responsible.
right.
Now, yes, condoms break. We know they're not 100%, but at least you're being responsible.
Yeah.
Now, if that happens, then it's like, shit, I did everything I could and it still happens. That's not what I'm referring to. I'm talking about those that just like they meet people that laying down with them and they still getting pregnant. And they be like, well, shit, I just go get an abortion then because I don't want it. That's what I'm referring to when I'm talking about that.
Yeah, so that's what I'm saying though. That's why I feel it should be laws instilled to where the women still should have the choice at the end of the day, but they have to go through a screening on why. Like it's almost like psychologists in a sense. Like, of course, she can say everything that doctor want to hear to make it deemed that okay, yes, you can go ahead and have it. But if the doctor can somehow get a screen to where the questions they ask is what is the ultimate reason why you don't want to have a kid, other than you got raped or you made a mistake, that's not legitimate enough. No, I'm sorry, you can't have a kid because you don't want one because you felt like you're not ready. That's just, again, like you just said, that's just not being responsible. So if you have that in place in the law still only stands when it's something ridiculous where a woman cannot come up with any reason why they don't want to have that kid. And if you don't have a legitimate reason outside of being raped or the guy forced you or whatever, then you can't have an abortion because you're not ready. That's not a good enough reason. Does that make sense? Like that should be part of the law, stipulates where you gotta be forcibly raped or something happened to a point where it was completely out of your control consciously. Because to me, any other reason would be you just not ready. You feel like you don't want it. Because I was telling my lady friend about this yesterday, and I said, well, why can't you give it up for adoption? Because you're not killing the baby. At least you're giving someone else a chance to have that kid. Like I was stating about women that had miscarriages that want kids but can't have it. They'll look at the girl like, damn, you giving up your kid or killing it. I could have easily been happy to take your kid and nurture them and raise them. So my point again, I'm kind of reiterating the same thing, is it should be a law stipulates where it has to be something very detrimental and the reason why. Again, it's coming from a guy's perspective, but that's why I want women to come back and respond to that and say and tell me your opinion on that, because I feel like it's not going to change nothing. Women still not going to agree with it, but I think it would be a little bit better because it's not just across the board. No, at least you have a good, legitimate reason why. Because this is the other thing, I'm gonna let you say something again, Matt. We was talking for about an hour about this, and she said to me, well, what if you with somebody and you really care about her, and y'all talked about having a kid, but y'all weren't really ready, and it was that night where neither one of us used protection, and she comes to you and says, I want to get an abortion, I'm just not ready. She said, what would you tell her? I said, at the end of the day, I can't say, no, you can't have it. I mean, you can't get an abortion because I'm not the one having it. I told her, I would tell her straight up, you have that control. Even if I want the kid, at the end of the day, you the one that got to carry her for 9 months. So then her response was, so why the law trying to stipulate where we don't have that choice? So that's where I kind of understand where women coming from, where why is the law? And I get what you're saying, man. I agree on that, but that's where I kind of agree with the women too, where if you do, whoever you with can understand and can't force you. Why is the law making you where the guy that you got pregnant by is not even telling you, no, you better have it because I want a son or I want my daughter. So that's where I kind of get it to where there's some laws they put out there, where it's kind of set up to control you. You know what I mean? If that makes sense. But I get what you're saying. It's a thin line. Like I said, it's a thin line. But at the end of the day, it's all choice. regardless.
So
What you
let me
do.
ask you this question.
Yeah.
If there was no laws in place, no government, do you believe you yourself, and do you believe people can govern themselves without superior authority?
No, I think it'd be out of control because people do whatever they want. That's why laws are instilled to kind of control and keep things in a steady flow. So to answer your question, I think it would be 60-40, where people would make some right conscious decisions. And I think 40% would be just do whatever the hell they want because they know they can get away with it. So, I mean, that might be a odd, uneven percentage, but to answer your question, I mean, I think it will be crazy, but I think it will be some people that will probably still make conscious decisions without no law in place. But
Okay.
you know what I mean? I know that's, like I said, it's a
No, I
uneven
don't know if
percentage.
I don't know if you answered that question when I asked you
What?
if this whole case didn't happen.
Yeah, you said.
Do you think another case would have came up? Because it just so happened to be Texas. And I mean, there's a whole bunch of conspiracy theories out there. Just me personally looking at it, just looking at the whole case when it first happened, I just thought it was kind of interesting that the two attorneys she had was two feminists.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, if you know anything about feminists, they're more pro-woman than anything else.
Yeah,
So,
anything else, yeah.
right. So they wanted to fight this case. They wanted to prove that that law was unconstitutional.
Yeah, right. It was biased
So,
against women.
right. So my question is, was it more so them trying to actually prove that the whole system is biased towards women, or were they just trying to prove their point so they can have more energy going forward to say, okay, see, this is why we need feminist groups and we need more support towards women because this stuff like this is happening. So I'm just interested, just kind of curious
No,
of what feminists.
yeah, I hear that. I get what you're saying now. Yeah, I mean, it could be. That could be it. Yeah, yeah, it could be. Now that you put it like that, but
now see, this is another point too. So now, what this keep forgetting Norman. So I think it was like maybe 20 years later, 30 years later, she wound up joining the abortion clinic. And she was working, you know, with the abortion clinic for women that wanted abortions.
Right.
And then she met someone, and this guy was a leader of a group that was anti-abortion. So she actually joined the group of people against abortion.
Abortion, yeah.
Now, I know we're supposed to evolve over time. So I guess over time she grew, you know, she learned some things, she changed her mindset. But then right before she died, she admitted like she'd written 2 books, 2 autobiographies. And right before she died, she stated that the only reason why she supported that anti-abortion is because she was paid to do so. The reason why I'm bringing that back up is, like I said, what I believe is that everything is based off of energy. We manifest things. The more you put into something, the more that thing gains energy and it's going to move forward and affect everything else. So because that whole situation started off, like I said, with negative energy, and then to hear her say, well, I wasn't really supporting them. I was only supporting them because I was being paid.
Right. Yeah, well, that sucks, but
so I just really believe that it's unfortunate that a lot of people are affected by this because there was 2 agendas in place at the time. One was irresponsible, and in my opinion, the other one was more so let's push the female feminist agenda forward. And that's what their focus was. Right. And we are where we are now. Yeah, as a cause and effect. So I'm just interested to hear people comments, especially women. Like, how does a woman feel about that? Hearing this woman that went to court and got this whole thing in place,
Yeah,
came back like, you know what? I'm against abortion.
right.
Yeah. So I'm just
Well,
curious about
I mean, that's a good thing. See, like that, I'm not even gonna lie, I didn't even know about that. So I would probably encourage a lot of women to research that. And then now, with that being said, how do they really feel about it? Because that changes everything, in my opinion, the
right.
dynamic. What you just said.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at the end of the day, I know some women are gonna say, well, that still doesn't change the fact we should have the right to do what we want. I don't think nobody disputes that. I think at the end of the day, most people
Right.
agree with that. So yeah, that's interesting. So I would encourage a lot of women to research that. And I think most probably already know that, but they still feel the way they do. But the ones that don't, yeah, they need to look into that and then subscribe it and give feedback on how you feel now. With that being said, but yeah, like I said, it's a touchy subject. I mean, I really think that women should always have the choice at the end of the day when it comes to their body. But then again, it does come down to the maturity where you are at as far as being responsible. Because the self-will at the end of the day, that's more how I am. I'm all about choice. Everything at the end of the day, we choose to do. I don't care what nobody says about, well, he made me, she made me. Again, unless the woman was
Right.
physically raped and overpowered, I get that. But if it's just your boyfriend or some guy you like, that's the choice at the end of the day, on both sides, men and women, because I got to make sure I say that. Because yesterday she kept
Right.
getting on me about me being, oh, you always put it on the women. I said, no, dudes are just as responsible because we need to know, like you said about the comment I made earlier about the girl that told me that, oh, she can't get pregnant. That was my fault because I didn't take the responsibility to look into that to make sure she wasn't. But I took it for what it was, face value, that she was being honest, and I trusted her on that. So that was me more the trust system, but you can't always go on that because
Right.
people have different agendas. So, but yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, it's going to be what we choose, and the law should be changed. Though that's my argument on that. It should be stipulated to be a little bit more detailed on how women get the abortions. I don't think they should totally tell everybody to get them, but I think they should make it a little bit more of a screening, like they do for other stuff. You got to go through all these freaking questions and tests and psychological evaluation, but who's going to do that? That's probably too much time and energy.
Okay, but see, this is still my point. I hope I'm not beating a dead horse.
No, go ahead.
I get the whole, I totally understand that as far as a woman feeling as though she don't have a right to do what she wants with her body and somebody else is mandating that.
Right.
But I think I'm looking at it from the perspective of, okay, but you have control over your body.
Yeah.
You chose to get pregnant. Well, you ain't choose to, but you chose to lay down with somebody that wasn't your husband. Now, when we're talking marriage, like you said, marriage or committed relationship, that's totally two different things. But if you're out here just being promiscuous, it's hard for me to have any sympathy because it's like you or y'all, both couples or both individuals put themselves in that position. But so to hear a woman or hear someone say, my rights is being taken from me, my right to choose. So why didn't you say that when that man came to you and like, well, I'm about to come up in you with no protection? Why won't you, this is my body. No, you're not going to do that. So I don't get it. Like you want to be one way in one circumstance and another circumstance is different. So have that same energy and everything. That's what I'm saying. I'm all about being self-responsible. That's both men and women. So it kind of bothers me when I keep hearing, well, my rights are being taken from me. It's my body, I should choose. Have that same energy when you're out here sleeping with people that's not your husband. Now, somebody that's married, that's a totally different subject.
Right.
But don't tell me you out here not committed to somebody or have some point of commitment, whether it's being a fiance or being together for X amount of years. If you just out here dating somebody for a year or so and you get pregnant or 6 months, and then you saying, well, they took my rights from me. You should have thought about that when you lay down instead of having that conversation. So what is your intent? I do not want to have children. I don't want to have an abortion. If he says, well, we just gonna have to talk about it. You just have to get an abortion. If it's not what you want to hear, exit left. So that's what I can't get past. So until a woman, because I've talked to women and they can't answer that. They so caught up in their emotions about their rights being taken. I've yet to hear a woman say, oh, I'm sure it's women out there that would say that. Yeah. But the ones I spoke to would say, why didn't you have that energy? Now you want to get to the point where you was in bed. But like I said, when you first meet a person, those are the conversations that should be had when you're dating, when you're going out on dates. What is your outlook, or what is your whole intent with me? So it's just, for me, it's just having those conversations. So if those conversations are not had, the right conversation, I'm sorry, to me, it's no excuse.
Right. Well, I'm gonna do. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Now, like I said, with this woman, like I said, she had a childhood that she had no mentorship and guidance. So she didn't know what to do or how to do it. That's different because they're just out there and just flapping in the wind. But I'm talking about people that actually have guidance, they have mentorship, they have active parents, and you still choose to do that. You should, to me, there should not be a system in place for you to fall back on.
Right.
But that's everybody's counter argument. Is this my body? Use that same energy when you date somebody. Say, this is my body. I'm not having children. I'm not having an abortion. That's not an option. If they say, I can't deal with that, move on to the next one. So that's my whole thing with that.
Yeah, I was just going to do a little devil's advocate, just to kind of, again, because there's no women here, so I want to try to be fair. Now, you were saying something a second ago where I agree with that, but this is where I'm going to do devil's advocate, where you were saying y'all should sit down and talk about it. Now, this is where I am. I always tell my lady friends this when I meet people. She say, why don't you tell me about yourself? I said, I don't like to do that, because to me, it is not off subject, just bear what I'm trying to say. I said, I don't like telling women how I am, because to me, that's a script. That's I call it an interview. Just like you go and get a job interview, you always want to present yourself and say the right things, because you're going to do whatever you can to get that job. So I think when you're talking in the beginning and you're talking with your significant person, however you really like them, and you ask that scenario, what would you do if I got pregnant? I think more or less the person's going to say what that person want to hear, because they try to get with them. So I would go with that a little bit, but I won't trust it, because people say and do anything or say anything at that time to get what they want. Now, as you going through situations, then that's where I would be like, okay, let's say, for example, she say, oh my God, I'm late. I haven't had my period yet. Now, I'm not telling women to go out there and do this, but I'm just saying, what if she did and it was late? Because some women do have periods that's late a month because they stress. So the cycle isn't acting the correct way. How does the dude react? Oh shit, girl, you better not be pregnant. Then she gonna see firsthand, because the situation comes about. The same question she asked him before, he was, girl, I do this, I be here for you. But when that comes up, his total action is totally different. So the point I'm making is, I agree, but then sometimes that can be a gray area, because I believe that we sometimes tend to make ourselves more invitable when we meet someone off the bat, because you really like them. You're going to make sure you want to keep them. So you're going to say things that's not lies, but you're going to say things the right way, so you make sure that you get that person. So I think a woman might feel like, well, yeah, he said that in the beginning, but he ain't doing it now. So you can't really go on that conversation, because I told the lady I'm talking to, we can sit here and talk all day what we're going to do with each other, but I'm more of a situational guy. So I told her, I said, when a situation comes up, that's when you really find out the truth about a person. Then you're going to see the character come out, because now they in that heat of the moment. So the reaction is going to come up more than the action. So I feel like some women may feel on defense that they talked to that dude, and a dude made it seem like, oh, I'm be here for you. I got you. Then you tell him something, you miss your period or whatever, I might be pregnant. And then he like, oh, hell no, I ain't ready to have no kid. You crazy, that ain't mine. This happened. Some women actually live that life where the dude tell her that she feels like but damn, I'm stuck. I don't have nobody to help me. I'm not ready. This dude had me convinced that he was gonna be there for me. Now, what other alternative? Maybe I have to go get an abortion because I'm just not ready for this. Now, again, that's a rational, immature decision. But again, I'm playing devil's advocate. Or maybe that's some way women aren't, because like you said, women are a little bit more emotional. So they're thinking more emotionally than rationally. Well, damn, if I had this baby, I could still be able to take care of it. But some women think, damn, how am I gonna take care of this baby? I don't have the finances, the education yet. I had so much going for it that I want to do. They feel like that's their only alternative. Now, again, I can't speak and say that's exactly how a woman thinks, but just playing devil's advocate, just so it won't
Right.
sound like it's always, the women, the women, the women. Guys, sometimes there's some dudes out there that'll tell a woman what they want to hear. Girl, I ain't gonna get you pregnant, or I can't have kids. And when it comes about, then he want to bail because he fucked up, or he ain't want to come out and pull out because he'll tell a girl, I'll pull out. I ain't gonna get you pregnant. I do this all the time. And then he don't. So again, she's going based off again. I know that what you're gonna say is again control. I know, but I'm just saying this is a devil's advocate scenario because it's happening. It may be a stupid reason, but it still happens. But I mean, at the end of the day, it's a decision where even if it's wrong or not, the women still should be able to say, "Hey, I'm not ready not to have it." I think the other option should be adoption. Me personally, I think if you're gonna get rid of it, don't kill it. Let it go, but then you carry it for 9 months. The woman will say, then you attach to the baby and it's yours. Yeah, that's another hard decision. So it's not an easy one. I mean, this is a subject, like I said, it's easy, not easy. There's so many ways we can attack it and say what we should do, but as a woman, they have to do and decide that. That's just my only scenario I'm gonna come back to. But I do agree with self. You got to be aware of what you're doing. You at the end of the day. That's
Okay. Now I'm sorry. No, I do agree with the adoption thing. That makes sense. Like, but like I said, then the other thing comes in. They're carrying it for 9 months. They got to go through the whole experience of being pregnant, and maybe that's not what they want, so that's why they do it.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I'm going to say this, and then we're going to close. I'm not trying to like over trump you or say your point is not valid.
Right.
But when you was talking about you can have that conversation and the guy cannot be truthful and it's totally different once that situation happens. But that's what I'm saying. It comes down to just being mature. Like if a man does that, he's not mature. And I know it's no way of knowing if somebody's being honest. And because you want to believe that person's being truthful.
Right.
But even when you get past that, even if he's telling you all the right things, it still comes down to both. I'm not just saying one. It still comes down to both being responsible and saying, let's not do this because the possibility. And I will say this.
Yeah.
I know I was saying this to woman have control of the body, which I 100% believe, but being the man is considered the leader or the head, he should always be the one in control of that situation. So if he knows that that's a possibility as a man and being that leader and being that head and being responsible, he should be like, babe, we're not going to do this. So if we're going to do it, I'm going to make sure we got protection.
Right.
That I will say what a man should be and do, but I'm still sticking to a woman still has responsibility of her body before it gets to
that
to the government or whoever. So I always tell people, don't give somebody a reason to mess with you. So if you're out there doing stuff irresponsibly, you're allowing somebody else to say, okay, you fucking around, I got you. I'll make decisions for you. So my whole thing is don't give anybody a reason to mess with me. And I'm going to say this, and I promise that I'm going to close. I remember when I was in the military, I was with one of my close friends. We was both specialists. And I'll never forget this. The E6 called us in his office, and he looked at both of us and said, I got my eye on you two. It's something
Mhm.
about you. I don't know what y'all doing. Y'all too
Right.
squared away. Y'all shit is too much together. I know it's something y'all doing. And we both looked at each other like, are you serious? But the
Right.
point I'm trying to make is we both had that mentality. Do
Yeah.
not give somebody a reason to mess
Right.
with you.
Right. Mhm.
So to me,
Yeah.
not just with this, with anything, if we put
Yeah.
ourselves out there,
Mhm.
now, if everybody's doing what they're supposed to and they still fucking with you, then I'll be like, okay, that's definitely just they're trying to dog us, they're trying to control us. But if we're
Right.
giving them reasons to, then hey, what I don't know, I can't help you. But
Right.
being a psychology student, I
Yeah.
know the cause and effect and why that stuff comes about. So
Mhm.
I'm gonna say in closing, as I said when I first opened, this is just our opinion. Hopefully no one was offended.
Right.
And you are offended, the way to voice that disagreement or whatever, leave a comment, leave a like, leave an unlike. I love to learn. I want to be a better person. I want to improve. If my whole mindset is off from this, the only way I know is by leaving a comment, leaving a like or unlike.
Right.
Subscribe to our channel. We got a whole bunch of good topics coming. Next week, our topic is going to be online dating versus traditional dating. So I hope everyone enjoyed it. Again, we humbly thank you for joining us. For those that did, we'll see you next week. And like I always say, be responsible. Don't allow nobody to control you or allow them to have control over you. All right.
Okay. Well, I'm
Until
gonna
next
close
week.
on everything you
I'm sorry.
said, just to echo that. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. Like I said, it was good. It was a great hour. It was a great topic, a very sensitive topic, but we got through it. Like Matt was saying, please subscribe, give us your feedback because that's important. Like Matt was saying, this is what helps everybody better is conversation rules the nation. We learn from each other, we learn each other's opinions or way of thinking. The only way you're going to do that is by talking about it. So even the most sensitive subjects, the ones we have to touch, because that's the ones you're going to learn more about a person. So guys, just keep tuning in because like Matt was saying, we're gonna have a good one next week. I'm looking forward to that one on online dating versus traditional back in the day. So I appreciate you guys. And what I always say, like I do, I'm gonna do a little shameless plug on my personal training, but this goes across the board in life itself. Stay consistent, stay focused, and trust your process, guys. That's all I gotta say.
I got to give a plug real quick. If y'all like these t-shirts and the logo, this is courtesy of my son, Matthew Jr. Check out his website, www.aceofhearts.com. Again, we love y'all. Y'all be good. Be safe out there. Until next time.
All right.